Hi everybody. We're going live with the Art Walk in the Square artist interviews. Our first person we're interviewing is Kate Taylor. Oh, there she is. She's here already. Excellent. I'll just let her in. And Kate, I just can't quite click on you. Just one moment. There. I'm just going to try to let Kate in. Kate, maybe you can ask to join. I'm just having a hard time asking you. Now we're going live with Kate. She'll be in a minute. So we're really excited. The Art Walk in the Square, we're interviewing a bunch of artists who are in the show, and Kate Taylor's our first artist interview.
Hey, how are you?
Good. Sorry about that, Kate. I couldn't click on you to let you in, but I'm glad that you asked to join. So it worked out anyway.
Hey, you know what? When I do my talking to artists, I have at least one technical glitch per interview, even though I've done about 16 of them now. Somehow there's always something that goes wrong.
Oh,
so
well,
that's the way it is.
I'm glad we're connected. You can hear me well?
Yeah, totally well. It's good.
Excellent. I can hear you perfect too. So, Kate, maybe you can share a little bit about your art practice and why you're in Art Walk in the Square.
Yeah, well, first of all, I'm an abstract painter, and my work is really about capturing the joy that you feel when you're really present in nature. So you can see the pieces behind me. I tend to work in pretty bright, happy colors. I'm finding, especially now with kind of the whole kind of COVID challenges and isolation, people are really looking for kind of joy, and it therapeutically helps me to paint in happy colors to kind of keep me updated and sort of like, positive, which is good. Art Walk in the Square has traditionally been a really good show for me. Normally it's, of course, at the shops at Don Mills. I really love doing these outdoor shows, and well, as you know, Ange, we were in the one-day Art Walk Square show on Saturday, which was wonderful. It was
great to connect with people. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and just the energy of feedback in your work, and I know it's just very different kind of reading that energy in real life versus on Zoom and stuff like that. So that's been really great. So the show is kind of in my neighborhood, so it always has been a good show for me, and I think it's always great to do as many outdoor shows as you can, just because it sort of allows you to talk to more people and build more contacts and share your work with more people. And I think that sometimes it just takes people a while to decide what they're going to spend their hard-earned money on, right? So they kind of need to see you more than once. And I know this year we've gone online, which of course is a whole new area of communication, which has required some kind of a learning curve. But I think that seems to be working.
Right. Yeah, I agree. It is working, but I think it's a thing that everybody's learning. Not only the artists doing more online, but I think that people are also learning to buy art online. I think there's so many more opportunities to do that. We created Art Walk in the Square online show, and that was very new. We're the first Canadian users for Eventini, and we're really happy to use that platform because it's excellent. If you haven't had a chance yet to check it out, we hope that you do. But yeah, so I mean, you've always had a website. You've been showing for many, many years, but I guess you're now profiled in more online places than you ever have before.
Well, I think that's part of it. I think that I also have these, what I call these little guys, my little treasures. I don't know if you can see them. Yeah. But these are little 6x6 inch pieces, and they're typically really colorful and really bright and, pretty happy. And those I do actually have on my own store. But I found it was typically what was happening is that people would go to my store, they would see a piece they liked, then they would email me and we would talk about it, and then we'd buy it. I think what's happening now is people are getting more comfortable with their e-commerce buying decisions online, like they did with banking and everything else, clothing and stuff like that. And I think it's starting to happen with art. So I think at the Riverdale Art Walk, for example, through the Eventini site, I mean, I was selling stuff now into the US because the reach is so much broader now than it was ever before, which is great.
Yeah. So are you finding you're connecting with art buyer, the same amount of art buyers, or the same way, or like they're all just
to expand? So I definitely find that I'm connecting to more art buyers in more places. I just delivered 3 of these little treasures to someone living just outside of London, England, which, normally would would pretty much never happen unless I did a show in London, right?
Right.
And so I think that's really cool. I think I'm also seeing people that it's one thing to kind of buy a little piece and you hope you like it, and if you don't, there's not that much money involved in it, but I am starting to see more people make major investment pieces now online, and through people becoming more comfortable with Zoom and Instagram Live and, Facebook chat and stuff. These things are happening, and they're facilitating, I think, opportunities for collectors and for artists that just didn't exist before. So I'm just trying to steep learning curve, trying to learn as much as I can and try and leverage them as much as I can.
Yeah, well, you have a pretty good following yourself, so that must help as well in regards to being able to connect virtually with people. Are you doing that? Are you chatting with your clients and your customers online that way? Like, are you doing calls like this with them, or are you doing just like showcasing your studio and things like that?
Trying to showcase my studio, doing this podcast called Talking to Artists, which I just launched. Actually, I think it's going into its 4th month now. Wow. And that was just an opportunity really to expose more collectors to kind of the artist conversation and what happens with the artists and stuff. And it's also just was really fun for me because I'm an extrovert and it's nice to talk to people. But I find that I'm also doing video chats. I just kind of finished a commission for a woman based in, she was in Chicago and she was sending it to her cabin in Missouri. And so, we were able to kind of have this call. I was able to see her space. We had a conversation. And it's so much easier to do that and to get a feeling for what people are looking for in a commission versus writing it down, because people can't always articulate exactly what they're looking for. So yeah, I think it's made it way easier and more fun.
Yeah, and I guess people are used to being online a little bit more now, so they're maybe okay to show their space that way, whereas before they'd have to describe it or you'd have to go visit them, which would be difficult outside of the GTA for you. You're a Toronto artist, right? So
well, and the first time I had it was a woman from San Francisco, and this was probably back in March, so people weren't really yet doing a lot of Zoom stuff. So we're like, okay, she has FaceTime and I don't have FaceTime, so we eventually ended up both downloading Skype and doing this Skype call, and it took us about an hour and a half to figure out actually how to connect, right?
Oh, wow.
And so it was a big deal, and I went through my studio and showed her all the pieces, and she ended up buying a few pieces and stuff, which was really great. But I realize now it's just like, well, that's so much, it's so much easier now because everyone is just, the learning curve's gone up incredibly. So yeah, I think it's a good opportunity. I think it's good to do these interviews like this, to do kind of like studio tours. It's sometimes hard to fit that in when you're kind of in the creative zone of painting, but I think it's kind of important.
So is there anything exciting that you're working on right now that you'd like to share?
Well, I'm working on a number of pieces for some galleries, which has been really good. And I've got probably a number of commissions. I do a lot of commissions. Probably about 30% of my work is commissions.
Oh, wow.
I find a lot of times people will kind of say, well, I love this piece, but I need a different size. And, I can get it custom made for the size. I have a 0 risk policy. So if someone doesn't love the piece, they don't have to take it. And I'm 100% cool with that. So I'm pretty busy with a couple of commissions. I'm actually just working on a color palette that, to me, probably for everyone else, probably looks like it's the same, but to me, it's a bit brighter. It's even more kind of joyful, and so I'm kind of working through that too, which has been fun.
Yeah, because you said you're doing more joyful colors and everything. I'm thinking, oh, you're always joyful. Like I know you as a vibrant artist, and I just think, is that new? I don't think that's a new Kate.
But now it's super joyful. Yeah, I know. That's why I say people look at. People look at the work sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they're like, oh yeah, no, it still looks about the same. I'm like, no, for me, it's completely different. It was a different process that I went through, but yeah.
Yeah, well, that's exciting. And what about upcoming shows? Do you have other upcoming shows that you're involved in?
Yeah, so right now I'm also, through Eventing, I'm also doing the Bayview Studio Tour. I'm going to be doing the One of a Kind, which you're doing as well, right? So we're still kind of trying to see how that's going to work online, but I think it's going to be fun. And we just recently had the ArtWalk Square show at Art Alchemy, my art studio, and that was really successful. So, I was talking to some of the alchemists this morning, and I think we're going to try and see if we can do another, maybe another show and in person. I think would be kind of fun, smaller, intimate, but we can then control the COVID protocols, and I think that could be kind of fun too.
Are you? You mentioned Art Alchemy. Are you seeing clients at or at that space? Like, can they come into your studio and view your work, or you're just really not doing that at this point?
They can. It's kind of by appointment only, and we kind of are, all of us alchemists, we communicate so that we really have only one person at a time if a client's coming in. the doors are all open and they have to wear masks. We have a pretty serious protocol anyway, so we have to go in and clean all the light switches and everything just to keep everybody really safe and allows us to continue to work there. So clients can come in on appointment, which has been really nice, because sometimes what ends up happening is the client comes in and looks at my work and then they see one of Lisa's, and it kind of starts to build that kind of whole energy and stuff, which I think is wonderful.
Well, Art Alchemy is a fairly new enterprise for you as well, right? So is that you've been able to maintain sort of that like connection with other artists and that vibe, whereas a lot of artists are kind of like in their studios working on their own. Has that helped?
For me, it's helped tremendously. Yeah, like I'm a people person, and so I find if I don't have that that energy, I get my energy from people, and if I don't have that, I find I start to get dark. And my work was also starting to get darker, like darker blues, which is nice to have that cool color palette. But when everything starts to get super dark, I kind of myself know, I think I need a people connection. Right. So my sister used to run Art Alchemy in Vancouver Island, and so that's why I kind of did Art Alchemy here as a sister's thing. But it's been wonderful because you can paint, you can still have a conversation. And we're at least 10 or 12 feet apart, so there's lots of space there to be able to kind of work and still chat about, the importance of deep turquoise, which nobody else really wants to have a 12-minute conversation about that. I love to do that.
Well, I can vouch for Kate's Art Alchemy space. It's beautiful. She's got lots of light there, and the artists are really spread out. I went to your opening, I think last fall, wasn't it, Kate? Or not?
It was a year ago,
A year ago fall.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a great space, and it's wonderful that you have a little bit more space to spread out, because now some of your pieces are quite large, right?
Yeah, I'm just working on this one behind me. It ends up being a triptych, so it's 30 by 90, and I'm working on a commission that's going to the U.S., which is 48 by 72. So, yeah, it's definitely nice to have that space. Although no matter how much space you have, it's never enough space. Like I have my studio at home, I've got Art Alchemy, I've got a studio at the cottage, and I still feel like I never have enough space.
Right. So, is there anything else that you'd like to share with us about your practice or about what you're doing?
No, just I encourage people to kind of check out the website, because I think I'm posting a lot of new pieces there regularly, little treasures and stuff. On Instagram, obviously, I'm at Kate Taylor Art, so I encourage you to kind of follow me there. And I think that, reach out if people are interested in the commission. That's really, now's kind of the time to do it, because people are spending a lot of time looking at bare walls, and it looks like that's not going to end anytime soon. So it's a great opportunity to kind of beautify your space and surround yourself with something that makes you feel good.
Yeah. And you're in a bunch of galleries as well. Are any of those galleries, do they have open doors? Like I know that you have work all over the GT. Yeah. Yeah,
so Art Gallery in the Distillery, they're open. Petroff Gallery, PI Fine Arts, so all three of those are open right now. Also Mountain Galleries in Stratford, especially Stratford being kind of a tourist town. It was hit pretty hard this year, but they've got some art tours and stuff that are happening. 2 Gallery in Prince Edward County, which again I'm hoping to get to in the next couple of days, a couple of weeks maybe, to deliver some new work. So yeah, and the galleries in the U.S. have been really busy because they've been open a lot longer than we have in Canada. Their restrictions aren't quite so strict, so that's been keeping me really busy. So
you've been
it's just been good.
A lot of work south of the border.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, that's great, Kate. I don't. Is there anything else you'd like to share, or I can ask you a few quick questions here? No,
I think I think I'm good. Unless you want to. You want to surprise me with a question?
I have a question for you.
Just to throw me off balance?
Yeah, no, it's not going to really throw you off balance, because I'm sure you'll answer it really quickly. But I know your work is being very bright and vibrant, and I have a piece of yours in my house that I love. Like it's my favorite colors. But I'm wondering, what's your favorite color? Because you have such bright, brilliant colors, and you have different palettes that you work with. So what's actually your favorite color? Like what are your favorite works? I see turquoise behind you, but like.
Yeah, so turquoise, I do love turquoise. And I also love this kind of like this deep magenta. Probably my overall favorite color though is actually a really warm cadmium yellow. Right. Yellow just is one of those colors that I love to use, and I would say all of my pieces have yellow and they all have magenta in them, because I do love those colors. Yellow is just a challenging color for people to incorporate into their homes in a large size. So I do them occasionally because they're pretty self-indulgent and I just really love them, but it's a very love-hate color. So I tend to work more in the turquoises and the blues because they're so soothing, and I think nowadays people are really looking for that soothingness. I tend not to work so much in reds. I tend to use more magentas and oranges as that read as red for kind of those higher energy pieces.
Yeah, so it's like a pop of color in a pop of color. So your yellow, that warm
Yeah.
ochre yellow is a pop of color inside your pop of color.
So this is one I just did. This is actually, a woman was asking for chartreuse green, and so I did 4 of them, and she chose a different one. But you can see this one has kind of the chartreuse, and it's got the yellow and the pink and the magentas, and all my colors. So people are always kind of, they're sort of saying, well, I'm concerned that the art's not going to match what I have in my home, right? And I would say the reality is I think people have an internal color palette that they already like, and that it already matches. So the reality is if you're attracted to my work, you probably already have things in your home that are those colors that will pick up. And that's typically what happens.
Yeah, and I always say if you love a piece, you'll always find a place for it. It doesn't really have to match anything because you're just attracted to it, right?
Yeah, and your art doesn't need to match. Like I think I last count 160 pieces of art in my house. Well,
wow.
They don't all match, but they all somehow work together.
Let's hope not. Yeah, I think if they all match,
that'd be weird.
It would be called like painting the walls. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
that'd be very strange.
Yeah, well, that's excellent. So an art collector as well as an artist yourself. So I think artists are.
Yeah, I think that's really important. I mean, my sister's an artist and my grandmother's an artist, so I have a lot of artists in the family. But I think it's also really important to give back to your arts community and to support your artist community. And I think, how can I expect other people to spend their money on art and, which is a pure luxury item, it's self-indulgent, let's be real, without actually also doing the same thing myself. So I can't preach that you should surround yourself with real art if I don't have real art in my own home. And I'm actually now to the point where I truly have no more space. So I'm collecting 6-inch by 6-inch paintings because I can now tuck them in places.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I still have a few big walls to fill, so I'm excited about seeing.
Well, we'll talk.
We will. We always do, so that'll be great.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm just going to log off and say goodbye at this point.
Yep.
Because we can move on to another interview. But thanks so much, Kate, for all your time and your energy, and you're such an inspiration, not only your artwork, but also to artists building their art careers. I see you posting all the time, and I just want to thank you for all those efforts with the Artist Network as well.
Thanks.
Well, thanks so much.
Thanks for the interview. Okay, we'll talk to you later.